Founded and led by an all-woman team of skin longevity scientists, OneSkin is on a mission to develop products that go deeper than surface-level results. I've really come to believe that aging isn't something to fight. It's something to understand, because it's not about trying to look 22 forever. It's about showing up in your skin and feeling strong, healthy, and confident at every age. My goal now is to look the best I can in my 50s, and that's why I'm obsessed with OneSkin. After testing more than 900 peptides, they developed OS1, the first ingredient scientifically proven to interrupt a core aging process, cellular senescence. Senescence happens when our cells stop working properly as we age, and instead of helping, they start causing inflammation and damage in the skin. But OS1 helps retrain those cells, supporting collagen and elastin production. And yes, I only recently learned about senescence, even though I've been experiencing it for years. It's skincare backed by real science that's not just focused on appearance. It's about long-term skin health and longevity, aging with care, with purpose. So if you're ready to support your skin, not just on the surface, but at a cellular level, check out OneSkin. Go to oneskin.co/SheMD and use code SheMD for 15% off your first purchase. That's oneskin.co/SheMD.
Hi, I'm Dr. Aliabadi. If you struggle with irregular cycles, acne, facial hair, body hair, hair loss, or insulin resistance, you might be dealing with PCOS, or polycystic ovarian syndrome. Having dedicated my life to helping women with PCOS, I understand the challenges in getting an accurate diagnosis and the right care. That's why I created Ovi, a science-backed alternative to prescription medications. Ovi is designed to help you take control of your health with clinically proven, validated ingredients in a simple, once-a-day solution. For too long, women with PCOS have had to choose between lifelong prescriptions or complicated supplement regimens. Ovi offers a better way to help manage your symptoms without the hassle. It's my mission to empower women facing PCOS and other hormonal issues by providing the information and support they need. Reclaim your health once and for all. Go to ovi.com. That's OVII.com and start today.
Mr. Jay Shetty, I have been a fan of yours. Just what you've done with your life and how you've impacted so many people in the world. I just want to thank you.
Thank you.
That's what we do on this podcast. We try to bring people on that elevate their lives, whether it's medical or spiritual. So we're so honored to have you.
I love that. I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you for creating this space that women primarily can come to and learn and listen. And the fact that you're bringing together spirituality and medicine, I think that's a really great combination.
So can we just start at the beginning and
Sure.
just tell of our listeners how you got from there to here now?
Where would you like me to start?
Start from the beginning.
So I was born and raised in London, and I grew up in a household where religion was ritualistic. It was practiced based on what day of the week it was. There wasn't a depth. There wasn't a reasoning behind any of what we did. I grew up as a pretty shy kid. And up until 11, 12, maybe even 13, 14 years old, I was just shy. I followed all the rules. I listened to what my parents said. And I was a normal teenager growing up. And I think for me, if someone would have asked me then what I thought my life would look like, I probably would have said, I'll go to college, I'll get a good job, I'll get married, I'll have kids, and I'll tick all these boxes because that's the life that was laid out for me. And I always feel that all of us need someone in our life who comes and interrupts our pattern. Someone who comes in our life and interjects and creates a new pathway. Someone who changes our trajectory. And for me, that happened when I met monks. And I know that sounds like the randomest thing in the world, and it was to me as well.
How old were you?
I was 18, 19 years old, around that time. And I didn't really know. I'd come across monks in our tradition and I'd seen them around, but I didn't really know what a monk was or what they do or who they are and what they practice. And I assumed that they'd been raised that way. But the monk that I met, his name's Gauranga Das, and He's someone that I'm still very good friends with today. He graduated from the Indian Institute of Technology. He got a gold medal from that university. And it's incredible to me that someone like that chose to leave it all behind and become a monk. And so I couldn't believe it. I thought, why would anyone do that? Either he's a genius or he's crazy. And I was curious. I was intrigued. So I wanted to spend more time with him. And so I would go to all his lectures. I would go and speak to him. I'd ask him questions. And very quickly, I realized that he was extremely smart. He was a very thoughtful human being. And he talked to me about how two of the biggest goals of human life, the first should be to master our emotions, to master our senses. He said, throughout your life, you're going to have so many different emotions. Your senses are going to crave, pursue, chase so many different things. If you have the ability to master your senses and master your emotions, you'll master your life. And the second thing he told me is if you don't use your gifts in the service of others, if your talents aren't used to actually help others, then they have no value. And for some reason, to the teenage me, both of those messages just...
I mean, like I hear that right now and it brings tears to my eyes. You too, I can tell, because I can't imagine learning that at that age or even experiencing that at that age. And like I listen to you right now and I think at 53 years old, if I could do that, you know, like my emotions are blah, you know me, I'm like, woo! Good and bad, but also the service of others. I think that is incredible. And it's like, I'm trying to teach my children that, like, you have to, if, you know, those who much is given, much is required. So
you just reminded me of something that I was thinking about, that when times are uncertain, we often look for certainty. And my monk teachers would always say, when things are uncertain, don't look for certainty, look for service. Because there's always an opportunity to help. There's always an opportunity to give back. If you look around and look for stability and certainty, you may never find it. But if you look for opportunities to help others and share, there'll be plenty of them. And so for me, I look at that example as not everyone has to go off and become a monk. I later on, after I graduated from college, decided that I wanted to become a monk. I actually decided the moment I met him in my heart that that was something I wanted to do. And the next few years were not directly in line with that path. I was a college student doing everything that college students do. But when I graduated, I remember in my final year, I'd made a decision that I'd go. So I never went to my graduation ceremony. I went to India to train as a monk. And then for 3 years, I lived across India, the UK and Europe, studying, sharing, helping, teaching, and practicing. And it was 3 of the best years of my life. So I was a monk between 2010 and 2013. So the journey between leaving the monastery in 2013 and actually being able to share this insight is a whole nother story. And it really came because I feel like you can both relate to this based on the fact that you're doing this podcast and trying to help people through it. I felt so lucky that I'd met the monks at that early stage in my life and that I'd gained valuable insight in managing my emotions, my senses, service. Again, not that I've perfected them, but I had all these tools. And I thought to myself, the most selfish thing I could do is practice it for myself, feel the benefits, and it doesn't matter whether anyone else gets them. And that didn't sit right with me. I had this underlying pull and calling that said, your purpose in this life is to share these messages with everyone. And when I say everyone, I was sharing it with the 2 people that showed up to a talk of mine.
So it started small.
Oh, absolutely. From the moment I met the monk, I started sharing what I was learning from him. I'd spoken for 10 years to groups of 5, 10, 15 people ever before I made a video or made a podcast. And so for 10 years, I would speak at colleges, I would speak at companies, I would speak at an after school event, I would speak wherever I was invited to speak. And like I said, mostly it was 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. I remember I started working at Accenture, which is a big consulting firm, when I left the monastery because I was just trying to pay the bills and survive and didn't want to be a 26-year-old living with my parents. And while I was trying to do that, I remember I started a meditation class at the company. And on the first day, 2 people showed up, and then 10 people came, and then 20 people came. So I've spent years sharing this in small rooms and small groups. And at one point, I just felt to myself, more people need access to this. And I remember thinking it would happen through a TV show or a media platform. And so I was applying to all these media companies in London, and all of them rejected me before an interview because they said I had no qualification in media, which was true, I didn't. And I ended up at a TV training day run by the BBC for ethnic minorities. So I walk into this room, probably the size of this. There were 6 people inside. Everyone was brown or black. And they spend the next 9 hours or 8 hours, whatever, training us in presenting. And I went there to see whether I had the skills. Maybe I had to network or build a relationship. And I remember at the end of the day, they said, Jay, you've got some really positive skills on screen. And I was like, great, like, give me a job. Like, I'll start at any salary. I'll work as an intern, whatever you want. And they said, there's no jobs in media. And I was like, great, you told us to all come here to tell us there's no jobs in media. And not that they were lying. It was just, I felt like I'd wasted a day. And they said, well, you should start a YouTube channel. And this is 2015. And I was like, that works for Justin Bieber. Like, that doesn't work for me. Like, starting a YouTube channel in 2015 did not feel like a realistic way to reach people. So I always describe it that there's a beautiful statement by Thomas Edison where he said, when you feel you've exhausted all options, remember this, you haven't. And I think that's a great note for our health too, that I think sometimes we try everything and we feel so exhausted because you tried this diet and this doctor and this version and this detox, and you almost get to this helpless point where you think, well, nothing's going to work. And I was so lucky that I knew that piece of wisdom then, because I thought, well, I haven't tried everything. I haven't tried a YouTube channel. And no matter how ridiculous I think that is, I've got to give it a go. And so I uploaded my first ever video 9 years ago in 2016. And it was incredible because I got like 100 views and I was the happiest person in the world. And then I got like 500 views and I was so happy. And maybe in my first month, I got to 1,000 subscribers.
This is amazing.
This is amazing. And meanwhile, all my friends were saying things like, Jay, you talk too fast. The music's edited really badly. The thumbnails look really bad. No one's going to watch this. People were like, oh, 1,000 subscribers, that's probably it. So around me, there wasn't a sense of belief or excitement. It was kind of like, well, where's this going to go?
And what did your parents think?
I mean, my parents were just happy I was back from being a monk. So this was like the least
imagining
of
Indian parents.
Yeah. Oh,
you're not a doctor. You're not an engineer.
Oh my gosh. I always say that. I had 3 options growing up: to be a doctor, a lawyer, or a failure. And I chose the third option. I mean, when I became a monk, my parents have been kind of what I like to call like aloof with my decisions. I feel like I started to make all my decisions when I was 14 years old. That's when I started to really follow my inner voice and my heart. And so my parents are used to that. But my wider family, when I became a monk, was saying things like, you're wasting your life. You've wasted your parents' investment. Your parents are not well-to-do. How will they take care of themselves? You're letting your family down. You'll never get married again. You'll never have a job. This is the worst decision of your life. It wasn't.
And that just went off of you. Like
it didn't, if I'm honest, it didn't go off of me. I was scared inside that what they were saying was true, but the pull to do it was so strong because my monk teacher was just such an amazing symbol of hope. And I think this comes back to another lesson for all of us, that it's not that hope has to feel 100% perfect. You can feel helpless and still follow hope. And I think that's the mistake that so many people make. We think, if I don't have 100% hope, I'm going to lose. But the truth is, you can feel helpless and hope at the same time and still keep moving in that direction. So I was so hopeful that what the monks were telling me was true, that even though I felt helpless and affected by some of that feedback, I felt confident that I was making the right decision. Now, when I came back, it was a different story because now everyone was saying, I told you so.
Right.
We knew you wouldn't make it. We knew it wasn't possible. What are you going to do with your life now? Do you remember your friend? They just went and moved into a new apartment. Oh, you remember so-and-so? They just got engaged.
That's very common in my culture too.
Yeah.
It's different in America because they let you be, you follow your passion. It doesn't work that way. At least in my culture, very similar to yours. There are certain rules you have to follow. You know, you have to be able to get educated and be able to afford an apartment and get married and have children. There's certain things you have to follow. So when you go off that path, everyone's shocked. Honestly, as I'm listening to you, and I think all doctors and people in service, especially healthcare, relate to this. You know, everyone needs a purpose in life. I always say that to my children. When you wake up in the morning, you can be the wealthiest person in the world, sit at home and have this money just build up in your bank account. You're not going to be happy. Happiest people on the planet are people who wake up in the morning and they have a purpose. And if that purpose is towards helping others, then there's nothing that replaces it. You cannot put a price tag on that. And that's the life of purpose, right? And I think doctors feel this way because, and I mean, I can speak for my field, but everything you're talking about, I relate to. And it's to find that purpose in life, not to chase money, but to chase that purpose. Why are we here? What do you want to do with your life? How do you want to help your community? How do you help the people around you?
Yes.
Your purpose could be raising your children. Your purpose could be being a doctor. Your purpose could be, doing what you're doing. But you have to find that purpose in life.
Yeah.
And that's when you get to happiness.
Absolutely.
That's why when you walked in, you said, I'm so happy. That's someone who lives a life of purpose.
Yeah.
One thing that really hit home for me since starting SheMD in 2024 is that being healthy really means taking care of my whole body inside and out. But let's be real, when you're juggling everything, prioritizing health can feel impossible. As an entrepreneur, my schedule is nonstop. Early mornings, late nights, and somehow I still need to take care of myself and my 5 children. That's why I love Symbiotica. Their products make it so easy to stay on top of your health. Symbiotica's liposomal vitamin C contains the same amount of vitamin C as 10 oranges. When you hear vitamin C, you might think of how it boosts your immune system, which is true. But did you know that vitamin C also supports collagen production? Symbiotica's liquid liposomal vitamin C packets contain cutting-edge technology to deliver better absorption. That means better results for you and me. Symbiotica products are free from seed oil, preservatives, toxins, or artificial additives found in other supplements. You're only getting the good stuff your body craves. Nutrients are delivered safely and efficiently so your body gets exactly what it needs. Their convenient monthly subscription service helps you never run out of your health-boosting essentials. Go to symbiotica.com/SheMD for 20% off your order, plus free shipping today. That's spelled symbiotika.com/SheMD for 20% off your order and free shipping. Have I told you guys that I use Osea all the time? I love their oil, I love their lotion, and I recently found out that I am allergic to fragrance. Do you know how hard it is to find lotion without fragrance? But when I found out that Osea made some of my favorite products fragrance-free, I jumped. I used to think skincare was all about chasing younger skin, but now it's how I wind down in the evening, how I check in with myself, and lately that wind down ritual has included Osea's Dream Night Serum. And honestly, it's exactly what my skin has been asking for. It's powered by bioretinol, so it gives me that firmer, smoother, just glowy enough skin in the morning. The texture is light and silky. My skin soaks it up, and I really notice a difference. What I love most is that it's not trying to fix anything. It's just supporting my skin the way I want to support myself. Gently, intentionally, and consistently. Because aging isn't a flaw, it's a privilege. And this is just one way I honor that. Say goodnight to wrinkles and wake up to visibly firmer, smoother, naturally radiant skin with Osea's new Dream Night Serum. And right now, we have a special offer just for our listeners. Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code SheMD at OseaMalibu.com. That's OSEA Malibu.com, code SheMD. It is so hard to find bread that is both good for you and that tastes good. Usually it's like a ton of bricks, but I really love my Hero Bread toast. I love a good BLT. I love crispy bacon, a little bit of mayonnaise, some avocado, a tomato, and my Hero Bread. and my BLT thanks me for using Hero Bread. With my kids, it doesn't matter if it's healthy. If it doesn't taste good, they're not eating it. And they all loved Hero Bread. With Hero Bread, you can focus on your health and nutrition goals while still enjoying the soft, fluffy experience of bread. Those of us who are becoming increasingly health conscious are always looking for nutrition hacks. With Hero Bread, healthier sliced bread, bagels, and tortillas could help you meet those goals. Their products have ultra-low net carbs, 0 grams of sugar, and are high in fiber. All the good stuff, and it tastes delicious. Other low net carb products can feel like a punishment. You never know you're eating low net carb and high fiber bread from the texture. And that's what makes Hero Bread different from the rest of the low net carb breads I've tried. Get the soft, fluffy experience you know and love with your next breakfast sandwich, late night grilled cheese, or family taco Tuesday. Hero Bread is offering 10% off your order. Go to hero.co and use code SheMD at checkout. That's code SheMD at hero.co. The day I met her, it changed my life. I spent 10 minutes with her and I said, the rest of my life is going to be devoted to getting you into the houses, in the ears, and the lives of every woman out there who doesn't have access to a doctor like you, because most women don't. And I think that that's the same thing with you. If you hadn't done the YouTube and done your podcast, you've touched so many people by doing that. And that's just like such a gift.
Thank you.
And
Yeah. I never believed it was possible either. So for anyone who's listening out there going, how does that happen? You don't have to know how it's going to happen. And you don't have to have this false sense of, I'm going to reach everyone in the world. I don't think it ever came from that. I think it came from helping one person.
Yes.
It starts with one person.
Yeah. When you just work with one person and you help one person and you see that one person
feels better
or has a moment or gets to a certain place, and that gives you confidence to work with the next person. And, you know, I never thought it would ever get this big or this beautiful or this incredible. And I live in gratitude.
It's so soothing listening to you because it's that energy that you like. Tell us more. I just want to hear more.
Yeah, well, so what happened? And for everybody that doesn't know the story, this is the most incredible story. So you do this YouTube and you got the 1,000. Then what happens?
Well, I got really, really fortunate where this is where synergy and synchronicity makes an impact in all of our lives. I was working at Accenture, and my global head of HR at Accenture, who's now become a good friend, Ellen Shook, she showed my videos that I was making to Arianna Huffington at Davos. So they had become friends, and Arianna Huffington was working with Accenture on improving our mental health programs. And she'd shown it to Arianna Huffington and said, look what one of our guys is doing. And Arianna Huffington liked the video. So she said that they would share it on the HuffPost page. I wasn't going to get paid. There was no partnership. It was just, hey, we're going to put this up and see how it does. I was like, great, that sounds amazing. And at that time, HuffPost was this, phenomenal institution, amazing work. They had 7 million Facebook followers, which at the time was huge. And they put up my first video and it did 1 million views in a week.
What?
I was mind blown. I couldn't believe it. That was normal for them. So they were like, yeah, let's see. So they put up the next one, and the next one did 1 million views in 24 hours. And they said, oh, wow, this is serious. And then the next video did like 1 million views in 12 hours. And then the next video did 1 million views in like 4 hours or something like that. And those 4 videos across multiple platforms went on to do something like 250 million views. And I was quoting and sharing the wisdom of everyone from the Buddha through to Einstein, through to all these incredible people that I'd been learning and reading from. And it was just amazing to see the world kind of,
respond to it.
Respond to it. And I'm sure as a doctor, you can relate to this. I was trying to prove that if you give people healthy content in a beautiful way, they will choose it over unhealthy content. And I think that applies to our food, it applies to our diet, it applies to everything. But if you try and do it in a way that makes people feel like you're teaching them and schooling them and that they're wrong and they're weak and that there's some mistake they made, it doesn't work. And so for me, my messages were inspired from a place of compassion. So when I made my first video, my intention was not to get 1 million views. My intention was not to reach lots of people. My intention was that someone would watch it and send it to their friend and say, we were just talking about this. Because at that time, the things that went viral were cats, dogs, babies, and people taking their clothes off and doing pranks. So there was no wisdom going viral at the time. And so that proved to me that humans will make better choices for them if things are presented to them appropriately. And the sad thing is, most people who are creating things to appeal to the lowest part of us, the lowest self of us, which naturally is the easiest, lowest hanging fruit. It's easier to pick a pack of fries over a bowl of greens. And so we can keep selling that.
And I want to say, this is the same thing for our podcast. If you give people access to your teachings and your learnings, or all the people that you've learned from, that's what you've done on your podcast.
Totally.
And that's what you've done in your books.
Yes.
We have to give people access. And if we do, you're right, they want that. They crave that.
People are smarter than we believe.
Yeah.
They're better than we believe. They're kinder than we believe.
Yeah.
And we need to give people more credit. If you do something that's easy to get clicks on, it's proof that you don't really believe that people are smarter, better, kinder. And I believe they are.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
The first 4 videos, what did you talk about?
One of the first videos was called Changing the World Starts With You. It was inspired by Gandhi's famous statement of be the change you want to see in the world. And it was this idea that we see so much complexity around us in the world, but the outer complexity is based on an inner complexity. And that if we can solve the war within, then we have a chance of making sense of the war outside. And I think that's what so much of us struggle with today. We're struggling with what's happening in the world, which is very real. But at the same time, we're struggling with what's happening inside of us, in our families, in our homes, in our personal relationships. And if we can start to make sense of that, all of a sudden we have the strength to go out there and try and help the world. The second video was inspired by the statement, there's no such thing as an overnight success. And it was all the stories of people who'd made it later in life. And I was always inspired by people who had found their passion and their purpose, as you were saying, at age 40, age 50, age 60, because I think we live in these timelines and deadlines. And the videos went on from just things that I was reading, things I was inspired by. I made a video about Steve Jobs because I was fascinated by him. I made another video which was called Before You Feel Pressure, Watch This, which was about how today people feel if I'm not a millionaire by 30, there's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
People feel if I'm not married with kids by 35, there's something wrong with me. If I'm not promoted and I don't win an award by 40, there's something wrong with me. So we keep believing that if we haven't achieved something by a certain age, there's something wrong with us. When the truth is you're not ahead or behind, you're not fast or slow. You're exactly where you're meant to be. Like that's the most oldest wisdom in the book. And I think it's so important to remember that your experiences, your life has been molded and curated in a way where you're going to help people through the pains you've been through. That's where we're going to find purpose, not through having a perfect life.
One of the things that really resonates with me is some of the things you said about love. And you have a beautiful wife, and you guys,
she's the best.
and
She's awesome.
so you said so many of our love languages are based on how our parents loved us or didn't love us. What our parents gave us either has become our priority, or what they didn't give us has become our priority. And I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, I believe we subconsciously seek the gifts our parents give us, or we try and find people that fill the gaps that our parents left. And we do this subconsciously. So we write people off, or we focus on keeping people in our life because we're trying to figure it out rather than saying, who do I want to be? Who am I? I don't just want to be a product of who my parents made me. I want to be my own person. I want to know what that is. And so I was sharing this beautiful poem that I read about this idea that when you're building a relationship, it's like we're both coming from 2 broken homes. We're coming from a broken home. And when I say a broken home, I don't mean that your parents split up. I mean a broken home that your life isn't perfect and neither is the other person's. Never, ever, no matter how wonderful your parents were, how amazing things were. And what we're saying is we want that person to come and live in our broken home, and they want us to come and live in their broken home, rather than saying, let's take the best bricks that are left over and build a home
new
together.
home.
I love that.
And so it's like, let's figure that out. Like, let's look at the bricks that were left in your upbringing and let me help there. And let's look at the gifts. And so I think a lot of us we waste a lot of time repeating our parents' mistakes or trying to find someone who has what our parents gave us. And that may lead us astray, no matter how right our parents were, because we're different humans and so are they.
When you were looking for your wife or you met your wife, were you looking for certain things, or like how had you learned from all of your lessons with being a monk and your life, just looking for love?
Step one was being able to articulate who I was to that person. Could I actually explain to that person who I was? It's almost like saying, when you go to a doctor, you got to be able to say, my stomach's been hurting, my leg hurts, this part of my ankle's feeling really weak. You've got to be able to articulate what you're experiencing, because if you just go there and go, I'm not well, well, then what are they going to do with that? So when I met my wife, I was like, this is who I am. My purpose is this. I really, really want to help people in this way. I want to spend the rest of my life trying to do this. This is my number one priority in life. This is what's important to me. This is what I value. And then giving her the opportunity to tell me what hers is. And my wife had hers. She said her parents, her family were her top priority in life. And so straight off the bat, we were so clear about what our priorities were and what was important to us. I think a lot of the time I ask couples to do this activity where I'll get them to rank their priorities in order privately. So I'll give you a piece of paper, you walk into another room and you write down your top 3 priorities. And more often than not, one person will come back and their priorities will be my wife, my work, and then the kids. And then the other person comes back and goes, the kids, my partner, and then my work. And then the person who put the kids first and the person who put the partner first, they're like, wait a minute, how did you not put me first? And then the other person's like, wait a minute, how did you not put the kids first? And the truth is, that's how we're wired. We're not going to put the same things first. And so this idea that we have to value the exact same thing in the exact same way is actually really rare. And so for me, having self-awareness is step 1, being able to articulate that self-awareness is step 2, and being able to hear the other person's self-awareness. And the third one, which is the most important one, is don't try to change people. Don't try to change people into the potential you want for them. Don't try to change people into the profession you think they should have. Don't try and change people into the parent they should be.
It never works.
It never works. It's the worst idea, because that person may not want that for themselves. And so I think for me, monk life was a great training in compassion and acceptance. Accepting someone for who they truly are, the way they are. And if that person isn't right for you, that's okay. But don't make them feel inadequate, and don't waste your time in trying to mold them into the person that you think would be perfect for you. And by the way, even if they did all of that, you still wouldn't be happy, because you'd find something else in them that wasn't right. And so I think we spend a lot of time trying to change people when actually we're basically saying, I want to be with a different person than this person standing in front of me, like a totally different person.
And I think there's a lot of pressure from the society too, right? For me, when I moved to this country, I didn't know what Valentine's Day was. And I was 17 and a half. Wow. And I had just met my husband when I was like 20. I still didn't know what Valentine's Day was. And I got admitted to Georgetown. I was in my master's program. He was in LA. I was in Georgetown. And it was Valentine's Day. And all my friends said, oh my God, you have a boyfriend. He's going to send you this giant bouquet of roses. So I'm like, great. I go home. You know, the day goes by, there are no flowers. So the next day I called him. I'm like, listen, what is this Valentine's Day? People tell me you were supposed to send me flowers. Like, I didn't get any flowers. He's like, if you expect me to show up with giant gifts for your birthday and send you these big roses once a year, that's not me. I'm not going to do that. But I will promise you, instead of that bouquet of flower on Valentine's Day, I'm going to treat you like a rose every single day.
Oh, I love that.
He's the best.
But that's awesome. But for me, I was like, I was almost getting pushed into this pressure that I need to have a partner who sends me these dozen or 24 roses once a year on Valentine's Day. And now, having been with him 34 years, we're so close. And we don't do that. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. He might buy me flowers randomly when he goes to the market.
That to you,
I do too.
Rather than buying you flowers that day and trying to make things good.
No.
And I think that's,
And he knows exactly who he is. And it made me comfortable. So that's exactly what you were saying, to know who you are and try not to change them. I didn't sit and say, but that's not okay, because you need to send me flowers. You need to get me an expensive gift when it's my birthday. We don't do that.
You know,
I love flowers.
It doesn't work.
I'm going to buy you flowers on Valentine's Day.
But you guys, my first husband, and she knows this, is my best friend. I set him up with his fiance. I love him dearly. But we were terribly married, and we went to this therapist to try to
figure it out.
He couldn't stand me. I couldn't stand him. And finally the therapist looks at us and he goes, okay, this is the deal. You guys, with therapy every single day may be able to change 10% of each other. So I want you to look at each other. And if you don't love 90% of that person,
It's time
get a divorce.
That's great advice.
And we went, oh, thank you. And that was the end of it. And we were like, da, da, da. And we just, that was it.
Yeah.
So it's exactly what you're saying. It's like, if it took me a marriage, a divorce to get there, but whatever. I have 2 beautiful boys and I'm happy about that. But I think that, when you're young, and I tell people all the time that are now I'm with the love of my life and all of that, but I was very deliberate about that. I say, if it's really hard, then it's not right. If you're like, and I want to talk about meditation with you. And I'm really interested because I've tried meditation my whole entire life and I cannot do it. I have ADD so bad. I love some of the quotes that you said too about, your phone needs to charge, your computer needs to charge, you need to charge. Can you talk to people that maybe haven't been able to get there in terms of meditation?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I was to teach someone meditation, I'd have to move in with them, sit with them for 7 days, maybe 30 days in a row, meditate with them, and then we could build a real habit. Like, that's the work it's going to take. And maybe one day I'll start doing meditation retreats because I'd love to do that. I'd really love to sit next to people and help guide them through that.
I would be your first.
We'll go.
I would love to do it. I would love to be able to, for people to see the power of their mind and that they have the ability, that it isn't some special thing that someone can do, but that they have it within them. But before we get to that retreat, I think the thing that I'd love to tell people is that meditation is mastering your thoughts. It's being able to guide and direct your thoughts as you want them to. What most of us experience is intrusive thoughts we can't control, thoughts that just come off their own accord. Studies show we have 60 to 80,000 thoughts per day, and 80% of them are negative and 80% of them are repetitive. So not only are you having the same thought every day, it's the same negative thought. And so meditation is the ability to interrupt that. Now, maybe people don't have 10 minutes, maybe they don't have 5 minutes. What I like to tell people to do is you can't master 60 to 80,000 thoughts per day, but you can master your first thought of the day and your last thought of the day. If you can intentionally choose the last thought of your day every day and the first thought of your day, that's going to cascade into the in-betweens. And so what I say to people is when you're going to sleep, you set your alarm at night. You don't set your alarm in the morning. So you got to set the code in your mind as to how you want to wake up the night before. So before I go to bed, I'll say, I'm waking up energized, refueled, and enthusiastic. I'm waking up calm, rested, and rejuvenated. However you want to wake up, program that into your body and mind and subconscious the night before. And I really believe that meditation starts there by curating and selecting the first thought and the last thought of the day. If you start there, that's the beginning of meditation.
Everybody
Simple.
can do that.
Everyone
I can do that.
Anyone
I can definitely do that until your meditation retreat.
Yes.
I'm going to do that every single night. So the podcast became a ginormous success and it just was this avalanche. What have you been the most surprised to learn from somebody that's been on your podcast? Was there somebody that literally you were like, oh my God, I didn't even think about this?
Until I talked to him about women's health.
Exactly. Until Dr. A comes on your podcast. Then you're going to be blown away.
I'm sure that will blow my mind. One of the first ones was Dr. Daniel Amen. And he's a clinical neuroscientist and scanned thousands of brains at this point. And I met him very early on. He's been on the show like 4 times. And he talked to me about how the human brain doesn't have the capacity to deal with fame until age 25. And he scanned the brains of so many young superstars and talents. And to hear that made me think very deeply about the generation that's growing up today, where there is more exposure to fame, there is more access, there are many pockets of it. And for those that are coming into that early on in life, we've got to be so careful and thoughtful and compassionate about how we live with them. Another thing that I loved is from Dr. Gabor Mate, who's one of the foremost therapists in the world. And he was talking about how we often think we have to tell people why we love them. And he said that's a good thing to do, but he said people should feel that you love them no matter what they do. We often feel we have to say, I love you because. And it's like, no, it should just be, I love you. Because as soon as you put a because, that person feels that they're only lovable because of what's followed by that. So if you're like, I love you because you're so talented, and I love you because you're so smart, and I love you because you're so beautiful, and I love you, then all of that because becomes the weight that that person is now carrying. And I think when we tell young people like, oh, but you're so talented, you're so gifted, you're so loved, and it just goes over their head and they're like, well, I don't see it. And it's almost like we've got to help that person see it through their own eyes, not through ours. And they've also got to know that they're loved regardless of what they do or what they have or who they are, because that's the love we're all seeking. And so Dr. Gabor Mate, Dr. Daniel Amen, learned a ton of them. And then just really grateful for all the guests who have been so courageous to share their openly, vulnerably, their challenges, their pain points, their stresses with me, and trusted the platform to do that.
It's such a beautiful thing. I mean, we talk about that because we have these superstar
course.
women that come on and they talk so openly because they want to help other people
Yes.
and they want to share their stories so that that woman in Alabama who doesn't have access to healthcare can hear that and maybe know the questions to ask. Okay, so I try to stay active. Nothing extreme, but I move my body most days. I love Pilates, hot yoga, and a beautiful walk in California. I also love to hike. The thing is, I started noticing that even with regular workouts, I was still feeling sluggish, bloated, and honestly, my metabolism wasn't keeping up the way it used to. Another great thing that happens with perimenopause. That's when I found Array's MB1, and it became my new secret weapon. MB1 is a doctor-formulated daily supplement made with 7 natural science-backed ingredients that work together to support your metabolism. You just take 2 capsules in the morning. I take mine before my workout, and they help boost energy, curb cravings, and provide overall improved gut health. It includes ingredients like green tea extract for energy, a targeted probiotic for gut support, and vitamin B6 to reduce water retention and support protein metabolism. So if you're trying to level up your fitness and feel more in sync with your body, this might be exactly what you need. Head to array.com and use code SheMD15 at checkout to get 15% off and 4 free bloat travel packs with your first purchase or auto ship order. That's ARRAE.com and code SheMD for 15% off and your free gift. This episode is brought to you by Saks Fifth Avenue. Guys, I love Saks. It was one of the first places that I sold my fashion brand, Haney. I did my very first fashion show at Saks, and it was really one of the highlights of my life. The fact that they really, really only choose the highest caliber brands made me very, very proud to have them carry Haney. I remember walking down the street in Beverly Hills, turning to my right and singing my Haney in the window at Saks around Christmas time. I almost had a nervous breakdown. It was one of the highlights of my career, and I'll never forget it. And sadly, COVID was the demise of Haney, but I still love going into Saks, and they really do carry the highest quality brands, and I was very proud to have them sell Haney. I still trust Saks to be the place where I can find what I need to meet any fashion moment. From runway-ready pieces to timeless essentials, Saks carries expertly curated fashion and style inspiration. Saks is one of the few fashion retailers that's been around forever. And I think one of the main reasons for that is they have such a great range of options from top designers. Shopping at Saks makes it easy to cover any dress code. So if you're like me and you're looking for inspired fashion that fits your personal style, then head to Saks.com to shop online or find a store near you. That's SAKS.com. Will you please tell me about your tour? Because that's coming up, right?
Yeah, so excited. So my show in LA is at the Greek Theatre, which I can't wait for. It's going to be so exciting.
The perfect, perfect place.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful setting and it's going to be amazing. But I'm touring all of North America, doing 15 cities. So excited for it. I'm going to be interviewing special guests on stage in every city. It's the first time we're taking the podcast on tour. And so we've got surprise guests coming out, everyone's favorites, experts, athletes, celebrities. It's going to be amazing. Wow. I can't wait. I feel so lucky that there are so many listeners that listen to OnPurpose every single day. And the fact that we can all be in the same room and you can watch one of the episodes live with the guest, ask questions, I think the energy is going to be incredible. I will guide a meditation too at their events, so all of them across the country. And I can't wait for people to come.
Is this your first live event?
It's my first podcast tour. I went on a world tour for my book 2 years ago. We did nearly 40 cities across the world.
Wow.
It was incredible. But this is the first ever time I'm taking my podcast on the road. And that's very exciting because we've had the podcast for 6 years now. And the community's just got bigger and stronger. Yeah.
It's amazing. I just want to ask you a few more questions.
Yes.
So I have the 5 takeaways that you talk about are thankfulness, inspiration, meditation, exercise, and sleep. So we've covered a couple of those. Exercise. Tell us what you do for exercise.
Okay, so this has changed over the years. I used to just play sport and I thought that was good enough, and then started to realize how important it was to try and build some muscle and everything else. So my morning routine is pretty simple. I wake up, try and wake up at 6 a.m. every day. I'll be meditating from 6:15 to around 7:45. So that's an hour and a half. I'll get into the gym at 8. I'll do strength training for an hour till 9. And then I'll practice a bit of thankfulness, a bit of gratitude that locks in right there. And so for me now, working out has become 5 days a week of strength training. I enjoy it now. I used to hate it. I used to hate going to the gym, but feel the value, realize how powerful and useful it is for me. But for years, I played tennis, I played pickleball, I played soccer growing up, which was my favorite way. So I think sports is awesome. And I know a lot of people love dancing too. So
I love
get
dancing.
On a dance floor.
It's my favorite way.
Dance away.
I know.
I think it's so important to move, and whatever works for you is so important.
And then sleep is the last one. So what is your sleep routine?
I am a dedicated sleeper. Sleeping is my addiction. I want to get 8.5 hours of sleep.
Do you?
A night. Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
I do. I think sleep's the most amazing thing. We think of sleep as rejuvenation, of course. I think of sleep as making sense of our thoughts and memories. Sleep is the most powerful way to cleanse yourself of stress. It's the most powerful way to simplify all of the complex things that your brain's been dealing with throughout the day. It's truly a system for detoxing. So yes, it energizes you. Yes, it rests you. But on top of all of that, it's mental too. I think we think of sleep as very physical, like, oh, my body needs rest. No, your mind is resting too. And your mind is getting the ability to really switch off. And so for me, my sleep routine is I'll try and eat by 6 p.m. So try and eat 3 hours before I go to bed. I'll stop being on my phone at least an hour before bed, turn towards a book, and I'll try my best. This is the biggest one. Whenever anyone tells me they have anxiety, one of the first questions I ask them is, what did you watch last night? And chances are it's some true crime, some murderous villain, thriller, whatever it may be. And I'm like, yeah, maybe just stop.
Maybe.
Don't watch that for 7 days and maybe your life's going to be amazing. No, I mean, obviously it's more deep than that, but I think it is important. What we consume is affecting us. And if you're someone that's prone to anxiety and stress, it's important to not watch something like that before you go to bed.
I don't even think you need to watch Netflix to get scared. You can literally go on Instagram.
In real life.
I mean, shark attacks. And sometimes my children are like, what do you have on your feed? Like, because they feed you what you like, plane crashes. And like, if you like one video, they keep feeding it to you.
Totally, exactly.
So I agree with turning it off an hour before.
Yeah.
What's one book that you think everyone should read at least once?
Oh, so many good ones. Okay. I'm going to go for probably one of my favorite books of all time. It's called Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. And it's a brilliant book because it talks about the two systems of thinking, how we all have a instant response to things and how we have a slower thinking method. And I think we often get those confused. We don't know when to use our fast thinking and we don't know when to use our slow thinking. And I love that book because it breaks it down in the most systematic and amazing way. So thinking fast and slow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we talked a lot today about purpose. So what's your advice for someone who feels stuck and they don't know what their purpose is? And it could be stuck in a marriage, stuck in a job, just feels stuck. What would your advice be to those people?
Yeah, I'll tell a story that comes to mind that I love. And it's a research study that Amy Wrzniewski and her team at the Yale School of Management did. And so they went out in 2019 or something like that to figure out what was the most difficult job in the world. And they scoured looking for what it was. And they believed the most difficult job was to be a hospital cleaner. So they went and interviewed these hospital cleaners and they asked them about their jobs. And half of them said, we're cleaners. They said, we're low-skilled labor in their own words. We clean toilets, floors, bed sheets, beds, plates, etc. And then they carried on interviewing them. and they found another group. They got paid the same amount. They worked in the same hospitals, the same shifts. Everything was the same, but they were happier, more purposeful, and called themselves healers. So they asked them why. And these healers said, it's because we believe that a clean hospital is integral to the healing journey of the patient. If the hospital is clean, their family spends more time with them. If the hospital is clean, that person feels a greater sense of dignity in a really difficult time in their life. If the hospital is clean, they're just happier and in a better mood. So we believe that a clean hospital is an integral part of someone's healing. And when I read that, I just thought, wow, what an incredible mindset to have, that in a job that could seem really boring, really difficult, really tiring, really exhausting, they were finding meaning. And it reminded me of a beautiful statement by Wayne Dyer, where he used to say, when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. And I think often the problem is we're trying to change things rather than the way we look at them. And so I would ask anyone who feels stuck or lost or confused to say, how can you look at the lives you're changing because of what you do? Maybe you hate your job, but it gives you the money to take care of the family that you love. Maybe you hate your partner right now, but they've given you the beautiful children that you deeply love. Even the things that you hate probably help you love the things you love. And so how can we focus on that in this moment? I'm not saying to stay in that moment. I'm not saying you have to accept pain. I'm saying that for this moment, that mindset will give you the strength to change it. Because if you continue to hate it, you won't actually ever be able to change it. We can't change things that we dislike. You change something because you value it, because you believe it's important. And so in the beginning, I would encourage people to fall more in love with the 1% of work that works. Fall more in love with the 1% of your life that works. And that 1% will compound every single day. Work out 1% more, right? That's all it takes. And as soon as you do that, you get the strength and confidence for more.
I mean,
it's true.
Thank you so much. I mean, so we're going to have a link to your tour. We're going to have a link to your podcast. I mean, I think most people that are listening to your books, we're going to have a link to every single thing, and your Instagram, which is so beautiful. Honestly, this has been so special for us, and we can't wait to share you with all of our listeners.
No, you're both the best, and I can't wait for you to come see me on tour. And thank you for all the amazing work you're doing. Truly, it's been such a pleasure today. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. You're truly inspiring.
Oh, very sweet. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us today on SheMD.
If you want to own your own health, a good place to start is by following us on social media at SheMD Podcast and by subscribing to our show on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
For takeaways from today's episode, visit our website, shemdpodcast.com. We'll see you next time on SheMD. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for a physician's medical advice. You should regularly consult your medical provider in matters relating to your own health. Even though we share our honest beliefs on SheMD, some of the products and services we discuss may involve sponsorships or paid advertising.